Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Wallsend history story. This week I am covering a little bit of information about the new Wallsend police station as it was described in the newspapers back in 1908, just prior to it opening, and I will also include a few later details from the time it closed for good. Obviously this is not a full history about the building, just a few details about it from when it first opened, and also about the first superintendent to serve there. I hope you will enjoy it and find it interesting. I would just like to point out that the date stone that was on Wallsend Police Station said 1907. You can hopefully see it in the photo on screen at the moment. However, the station itself was not fully completed until 1908. I just wanted to add this in before I start, as I will mention that it opened in 1908 and didn't want anyone thinking I had got the date wrong. And I also wanted to add that most of the photos I have used in the video are ones that I took when the police station was closed, so that's why the windows etc. are all boarded up, and I've also added one photo that was taken during the demolition. It was reported that in 1908 a new division of the police force had been created for Wallsend, known as A Division, and Inspector Pringle was to take charge of it. He was also to be promoted to Superintendent Pringle at the young age of only 32. However, he had already served as a police officer for 14 years, having started his career in 1894 at the age of 18, and his father had also been a police officer before him, so he was said to have lots of experience for the job. He had previously been stationed at Blyth and Morpeth and also at the Moot Hall in Newcastle, finally being put in charge of the Wallsend Borough in 1906 as inspector. Superintendent Pringle was described as being a very nice man who was popular with the residents of the town of Wallsend. He was married with 2 children, and he would be living in one of the homes provided in the new police station. At the time of his promotion in 1908, it was said that the area he covered had a population of around 42,000 and that he would be in charge of 7 sergeants and 26 constables, which doesn't really sound like a lot to deal with 42,000 people. I do also have to add here that I did see one article which said the population was only 32,000 and the amount of constables was only 16. But most of the newspaper articles I looked at from 1908 seemed to agree on the higher figure. And just to add to that, I did recently look at a photo from the time that the new division was created, and I counted around 38 officers in the photo, so I think the higher total is probably the correct one. Before I move on to the police station itself, I thought I would just add that Superintendent Pringle would stay in Wallsend for 4 years, as he was still there in 1911, and he would later be promoted to Chief Constable at Blackpool, and he retired to Cheshire, where he died at the age of 64 in June of 1940. At the same time as Superintendent Pringle's promotion was announced, the papers also discussed how the new Wallsend police station was almost completed and ready for use. This was in February of 1908, and it was hoped that it would be ready for March of the same year. The new police station on Alexandra Street in Wallsend would replace the older, smaller station that stood at the top of the avenue. The old police station is the building you can see on the right-hand side of the photo on screen at the moment, and it is quite possible that it was already closed at the time this photo was taken, as I can't see the police lamp which used to be on the High Street end of the building. The new police station was described as being built on around 2,000 square yards in the formation of a square, and was built using red bricks and a Welsh slate roof. Welsh slate seems to have been popular for buildings in Wallsend, as you may remember from another of my videos that the roof of the Buddle schools was also Welsh slate. And I do smile sometimes to myself when I read these descriptions, as it does seem that they often covered the very smallest details, even down to the colour of the bricks. The police station would contain married men's quarters, unmarried men's quarters, superintendent office, weights and measures office, inspector's office and charge office, among other things. And it would seem that in those days the majority of the police officers who worked at Wallsend police station would also live there. It seems this was one of the reasons why the new station was built, to allow for more housing for the officers rather than having them living around the town. And the largest part of the building does seem to have been housing. The married quarters were much better than those for the unmarried officers. The superintendent's house had living rooms on the ground floor and bedrooms on the second floor. It's not stated if this is slightly larger than the others, but based on the fact that the married men's homes had also had a living room on the ground floor and bedrooms on the second floor, it sounds like they were all of a similar size. The unmarried officers seemed to have rooms that were pretty basic. They were actually described as cubicles, and there were 20 in total, containing a bed, a chest of drawers, a mirror and a chair, and the floors were covered with lino. So they basically got a bedroom and nothing else. However, they did have a recreation room and cleaning rooms, and also something that was described as a drying room, which I can only assume was an area for them to dry their uniforms and other clothes. It can't have been much fun living in these cubicles though. They sound only slightly better than the cells, but no doubt it was a lot cheaper to live at the station than to have to rent a room close by. The cells were said to be at the rear of the building. The article does not state how many there were in 1908, but from the later plans that I have seen, there were only 5 cells in total, 3 for men, 1 for women, and 1 for juveniles. There was also a large exercise ground connected to the cells, and there was a large parade ground which was laid with tarmac, and in 1908 this seemed to be something that the paper thought was quite a big deal. Tarmac was still quite new at the time, as it had only been around since about 1902. The paper went on to say that the building was lit by gaslight and was heated by hot water. However, it doesn't actually describe the kind of heating system used. The builders were J. Jackson and Sons of Newcastle, and the architect was Mr. J. A. Bean, the county architect of Newcastle. At the time that it was built, there would have been very little around it, as the library on Ferndale was not yet built, and the allotments were not fully in use either, as you can clearly see from this photo, which was taken where the allotments now stand. The one thing that was missing from the article about the police station was the cost to build. This was something that was nearly always mentioned, so I was quite surprised that it wasn't included here. And I did search, but I didn't find any other articles which mentioned the cost. So if anyone knows, do please let me know. In later years, many changes were made to the building, and some extra police houses were built in around 1927. It was said that by the time the police station closed, not many of the original features still remained, and based on the plans that I have seen just prior to its demolition, the houses where the police officers had once lived, on the Durham Street side and part of Northumberland Street, had been changed into offices and staff rooms, etc., as the officers would have lived off-site in later years, so the houses would no longer be needed. After having served the community for over 100 years, the old police station closed its doors for good and was standing empty from around 2010. And when the new, more modern police station opened on Middle Engine Lane, all Wallsend police services transferred there. And the Middle Engine Lane police station, I suspect, cost rather a lot more than the Alexandra Street one had done in 1908. By 2014, plans were in place to demolish the old building and use the site for housing. The plan for housing was also include using the car park on the High Street. Demolition work was completed in around 2015, and the new houses were built by mid to late 2016. The photo of the new houses that you can see on screen at the moment was taken by me in around September of 2016. Unlike the old public houses or old schools, I don't suppose people have quite the same memories of the old police station. But if you do have any memories that you'd like to share, then please do so in the comments below. I can remember going there once with my nana, as she had found a bag and wanted to hand it in. And I remember that you went into the little reception room, and I seem to recall a little window where you had to knock or ring a bell and wait for someone to slide the screen back. And in those days, if you handed something in and it wasn't claimed, you often got it back. But I have to say that I am glad that we never got this bag back, as it had nought in it but some soggy swimming costumes and a soggy towel. I do hope that you have found this short little story interesting, and I do thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again very soon.